think Jim was that great of a coach. I know a lot of people do. I don't.
Oh,
His game day coaching is suspect to me.
That's it.
It's amazing to me. I mean, if your profession is to be a football coach, all right, like in anything else, we got into broadcasting. I mean, we should know something about how to do this. It doesn't seem that way probably to people that are tuning in and maybe weren't familiar with our work. But, there's something going on here that we understand as part of the pattern of being a professional broadcaster, believe it or not. Believe it or not, all right? But, I mean, you should know everything there is to know about the job. Whether you want to follow those principles or not, whether you want to practice them, whether you're capable of using them, whether you think they're all bullshit and you should just do your own thing, you should thoroughly understand, after years of being in the business, your profession. And I know a lot of this is subjective, and look, you have to make these decisions, like the thing with the Denver Broncos coach, Hackett, right?
I mean, come on.
I mean, Hackett, you got to crack it, man. He's now gone back in hindsight and admitted that trying a 90-yard field goal was probably a mistake, as opposed to going for a 4th and 5 with Russell Wilson, the guy that they brought in there for exactly this purpose. They didn't bring this kicker in to kick 65-yard field goals. They brought Russell Wilson in to help them win games.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
How come it's so clear to everybody else, except the guy that's in the position to make the decision when it comes to sports? Hey, good morning, everybody. A very pleasant good morning here on this fine Tuesday. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubitz, the Defo Show, and we're happy to have you with us here on South Florida Live. Be with you until 9 o'clock. Later on in the 8 o'clock hour, a couple of guests going to join us. Seth Wickersham has written a book. We've had him on before about the New England Patriots. It's Better to Be Feared. And he'll be joining us. There's a guy, I think he's done a deep dive on the Patriots a couple of times. That might not even be his only book about the New England Patriots, which I don't know, do they need to be written about excessively at this point in time? Mike Lubitz, how relevant are the New England Patriots in the current current 2022? I almost said 1922 NFL season. Not so much, right? They won against Pittsburgh. Surprising. I was surprised they were favored over the Pittsburgh Steelers. Going on the road to New England Patriots off what we thought was a very, I mean, if you could even qualify that performance against the Dolphins in the opening week as lackluster, that would be a generous, almost a flattering description of the way the Patriots looked in that game. You're not a Mac Jones fan. I think he's the second coming of Brady, but I'm not sure that I'm right about that.
I think he's okay. I just don't think he's spectacular. Look, even the games they win with him, it's by small margins, tight scores, low scoring. Like he's not all the stuff they made fun of Tua for doing. He's even worse about. Like everything's to the line of scrimmage. It's either out of his hand quickly or it doesn't do anything. Look, the Patriots are probably better than a lot of us gave them credit. I mean, they're not horrible. They're just not a championship contender. Oh, okay. I don't know.
Yeah, turn that down a little bit there. I think you're snap, crackle, and popping there. But they don't have a lot of talent on the team right now. They just don't. I mean, they're not as good as they were. They used to be just loaded up with all kinds of studs, and Belichick was a genius at finding the right guys. And then on top of that, as you used to say, he could plug them into his system, and they became even better, even if they weren't spectacular to begin with. And then beyond that, very astute at knowing when a guy's shelf life was going to become limited, and did not overspend. I was not afraid to let go of star caliber players with big names that were very popular, and he'd let them go a year or two before they had kind of played out their prime and had gone into decline, and was very successful with that. To perpetuate what the Patriots did over the 20 years, Brady notwithstanding. I mean, look, what was Brady any superstar when he came into the league? No, nobody even wanted him, right? 6th round draft pick, an afterthought, and a 4th quarterback kept on the roster, as Brett Tesler's pointed out many, many times. They rarely keep 4 quarterbacks, rarely even keep 3 anymore. And so the Patriots made an exception there, and that's because they had some insight, right? And they were very, very wise in the way they ran the franchise. You can talk about the cheating and all of that. You still have to be really good to do what the Patriots did for 20 years and win, what was that? Did they win 6 titles during that 20-year time, right? 5, 6?
Brady, I think, has 6.
Brady has 7 now, right?
What do you have,
I
7?
believe
I
you.
think they won
I
6,
think he has 7. Yeah,
then they won 6.
6 titles, right? And perpetually, I mean, and perennially, they were right there at the top, and they were the team to beat almost every year. He screwed up a few things. There were a couple of mistakes made by Belichick. He wasn't flawless, but to do that in the modern era with the salary cap and free agency, very, very exceptional. This was not Lombardi's Green Bay Packers, and they sustained their level of greatness for a longer period of time. So you would have to give him a lot of credit. You know the guy knows what he's doing. But I don't know how big of a factor they are this year in the National Football League that we need to worry too much about them. It seems to me the team to watch out for is coming to town this week, the Buffalo Bills. Wow, did you see that last night? Now, there's an angle here that you can make a case for the Miami Dolphins, Lubie. Should I bother?
I'm curious. I don't believe it, but I'm curious.
I don't mean to compare this to something as macabre, but I mean, it's kind of like the defense team in a Nicholas Cruz sentencing hearing where, I mean, look, the guy killed 17 people. It's pretty hard to, justify that by saying, well, you know what, his mother yelled at him and she was an alcoholic. He seemed pretty conscious of what he was doing. And that thing is dragging on into perpetuity, which is sad because just make a decision already, huh? I mean, look, but we don't know what they're going to do. I'm not necessarily a big advocate of the death penalty, but if ever it was merited, it's one of these school shooters that comes in there. Now you know this. I mean, right off the bat, the person has to have some element of insanity to do something like that. Normal people don't walk into a school and go out of revenge or whatever, anger or from being distraught as a kid or bullied and shoot 17 people dead. Normal people don't do that. I mean, you're not thinking about doing that today. No. It would never occur to me. It wouldn't occur to you people out there. I mean, 99.999999% of people don't do stupid things like that, crazy things like that. So you have to be a little mashugana to begin with. Well, we know that.
Yes.
But, so all of this haggling back and forth, either you accept the fact that the guy had to be nuts and say, okay, well, we'll do what we can. We'll spare the guy's life, whatever. You can rot in jail. Or go ahead and just whack him already. I mean, I don't know. What are you going to say? If you're a death penalty advocate and you think that's the way to go, then this guy, if anybody, you can make a case deserves to go to the chair, it would be this kid, no?
I've never been a death penalty advocate in the sense that, to me, I grew up with the saying, 2 wrongs don't make a right. So to say don't commit murder by committing murder, to me, seemed a little hypocritical. But I will say, like you, if anyone deserved it,
it's these crazy people. I mean, but then do you justify their violence and the evil that they've wrought on society by saying, well, the guy's nuts and probably needs some treatment? No, you're not going to rehabilitate this guy anytime in our lifetime. But nonetheless, I mean, people argue back and forth about this, and they go, on forever. And it seems, it just seems like, please, maybe there's a better way to make a decision. Is it that we're so interested in being fair? This isn't, I guess, Russia, where, Brittany, goes and ends up, BG gets, 9 years for having what? A trace of marijuana in her suitcase? Can you imagine? I don't think I have a suitcase that doesn't have a trace of marijuana in it.
Have you ever been to Jamaica?
I guess I won't be going to the Soviet. Well, it's not the Soviet Union anymore. I won't be going to Russia anytime soon. That's for sure. Man, I'd be taken right off the track there. That would be ugly. Anyway, it just the whole thing about the cheating with the Patriots. We'll get into it with our guest Seth Wickersham, who's going to join us later on. But they sort of become like irrelevant in the last couple of years, haven't they? I mean, maybe they can build their way back. I don't see it happening. But meanwhile, the Buffalo Bills have become a juggernaut. And, wow, last night's game was something. There's an angle, though. I'm going to try to make a case here for the Dolphins, right? The one angle that you could look at, and I'm not sure the numerology on this, but we'll have to check. Maybe Mark Lawrence would know. How often a team that plays on a Monday night goes on the road the following week and wins. There has to be some kind of prohibitive stat against believing that the Bills are an outright cinch to win this game against the Miami Dolphins. But if you looked at the performance of the two teams through 2 games so far, both teams 2-0. The Bills dominate the Los Angeles Rams on the road on opening night, then take 10 days off, come back. Actually, 11 days off, right? Because they came back on a Monday night, and they destroyed a Tennessee Titan team that was the number 1 seed in the AFC last year. And has your man, Ryan Tannehill, not looking too swift, Ryan Tannehill. When Derrick Henry can't run the ball, they were able to just eliminate the main aspect. There was a prop bet out there that the guy in Action Sports in the New York Post yesterday was recommending you go ahead and just dive into this thing. There was a prop bet of 20 and a hook, and that was the number of carries that Derrick Henry would get in this game. But I think whoever was on the side that he would carry the ball 21 times or more was not realizing that the Titans were going to be hopelessly out of this game very early on. And so that was going to make it prohibitive to go ahead and hand the ball off play after play and time after time, the old Cyndi Lauper thing. And you were going to see very little action from Derrick Henry. I think he had 5 carries for 10 yards or something at one point. And that was late in the ball game when it was already like 41-7. So that didn't work out too well. The people who took that man's advice got clobbered. I mean, annihilated, just absolutely wiped off the face of the planet without even being in there with the most remote of shots, right? You just threw the ball right in the gutter. No pins on the first ball. How about that? You wasted that spare. Unbelievable. They end up putting a 10 there in the next frame. But very impressive. I mean, wow. How good are the Buffalo Bills?
Great.
They're scoring like 40 points a game as if it was routine.
Well, and their defense is really ridiculous, and I think they're still missing their best corner, one of the top 3 corners in football. So, because the Dolphins are missing their corner, Byron Jones, and you can see it. Their defense was a joke for 3 quarters in the last game. The Bills are missing White, and it doesn't matter. They're just scary.
I don't know what to make of the Dolphins' chances in that game, except you would have to say, just based on what we've seen so far, not good. Not good. Now, it happens in the NFL where a team steals a game. If you were ever, I thought they kind of stole one there. Most people had them losing to the Baltimore Ravens, and they managed to literally steal one. I mean, it came from the grave and came back and won that game to make it to 2-0. And any way you do it is good. Now they only need 7 and 9 the rest of the way, Lubie. That's kind of interesting to go over the number of 8 and a hook. 7 and 9 will do it the rest of the way. Is it 7 and 9? 7 and 8, right? They have 15 games left. 7 and 8. Okay, so they could play one game under 500 the rest of the way and still cover the number, which isn't too bad. Is my math correct on that? I believe so, right? 15 games left, the 17-game season.
It'd be 9 and 8.
7 more wins puts them over the top of 8 and a hook.
9 and 8.
And we're taking Mayo to dinner, even though we agreed with him.
I agree with him. It's fine. But I'm assuming and presuming that's not their expectations. You don't spend money like that to be 9 and 8.
I'm with you. And you know what? I mean, here's the thing. And this was great. And walking around town yesterday and doing whatever I did, running into people. Of course, at the tennis center there, you have people that are interested in sports. I'm out there playing last night. And what's everybody talking about? How exciting it is to watch this Miami Dolphin team perform.
So true.
They may change their tune by next week. Might be a lot of cancellations out there next Monday night. But so you have what? A 1:00 game against the Buffalo Bills in what should be just absolutely blast furnace, type of heat. And we'll see if the Dolphins can sustain that momentum that they gained in the fourth quarter of their game last week, where a lot of people thought they were going to lose to the Ravens, and it looked like surely you could just chalk that one up and throw the flowers into the punch when they were down 3 touchdowns going into the fourth quarter. You should never believe that you're out of it. And I was telling the people that I was with, I said, you know what, if they could just sort of punch one in here and get down 2 scores. I hate that when they say that, 2 scores. Get down 2 touchdowns. Oh, it's a 3-score game now. Okay, great.
I say it all the time.
Well, guess what? If they kick 3 field goals, they're going to come up 6 points short. So it's not a 3-score game. It's a 2-touchdown and a field goal game. They pay these guys like hundreds of millions of dollars to come up with statements like that. What game, by the way, was now here's a good one. I couldn't tell you what game Joe Buck and Aikman were doing. There was a game on ABC. I guess they were doing that game, the Philadelphia-Minnesota game. It seemed like, I mean, and as decrepit as we thought, the announcing teams that have been offered up by ESPN on Monday Night Football have been. I don't know. I mean, this latest configuration probably wasn't that bad, except it includes Louis Riddick, who I can't take the guy.
But the funny thing is, I actually like Louis Riddick when they have him doing the studio analyst.
No, he seems like a good guy, and he seems like he knows what he's talking about. But I mean, enough already during games, huh? It doesn't work. I mean, they tried a lot of different things. Dennis Miller would have been a welcome change from Louis Riddick in there, because the guy's a little too cocksure of everything that he says. He doesn't present it in kind of a pompous fashion like a Jay Billis, but there's just not that much to it. I mean, do you believe that, Lubie, or not? Am I wrong about this? It is not as sophisticated as these people would like you to think it is, watching a game of football and playing the game.
Look, in some of the coverages and stuff, I don't know it because I haven't dedicated my life to it. But I feel like if I spent a little bit of time, it wouldn't be like rocket science to learn. I mean,
no. What does the guy do? He draws a little hoop. They go to the telestrator and they draw a hoop. They go, oh, look at this. They're dropping everybody deep. It's never going to work. Okay. Well, we can see that. They're getting picked apart. That was happening last night in that Philadelphia Eagles game, which, by the way, were we wrong about Minnesota? Everybody was raving about Minnesota and Kirk Cousins. And once again, that big spotlight, Tony Segreto would be all over this one, right? The in-the-moment thing, because whenever the spotlight is brightest, Kirk Cousins lays an egg. And he did in the game last night. I was dead wrong about Jalen Hurts. Were you also dead wrong about Jalen Hurts? I did not think that Jalen Hurts had much of a chance of being an NFL quarterback. Did you? He was beaten out essentially for the job. I mean, yanked from a ball game, a championship game, for Tua, who came in and made you think, man, I want this kid, because he came in. You talk about being in a moment, and he made those spectacular plays. And I thought, wow, if ever I wanted a guy to quarterback my team, it would be this Tua Tagovailoa. And then we got our wish here in South Florida, and it's still debatable. People are still debating whether this guy is the man after he threw 6 touchdown passes, because the majority of the game, was looking more like a detriment than he was an asset, even though he threw for 470 yards in the ballgame. Incredible.
Jalen Hurts is weird to me because, I don't think he's bad. I never thought it was bad. I thought it was an interesting prospect, but I also don't think it's really weird because, guys show any flashes outside of Tua, because Tua shows a flash and it doesn't matter. He's still a little guy who's not good. But a guy shows flashes, but his numbers are If you look at Hurts' numbers last year, they weren't good, but he showed flashes. So that's their quarterback. That's I don't know what Hurts is. I don't.
He looked great last night. Minnesota's defense. Okay. I don't know what they were doing, but I mean, and this was one thing. I guess I did listen to a little Aikman, and he was right about this. There was 0 attempts or attempt to adjust to whatever it was that Jalen Hurts. He was picking them apart with these short passes, which were so wide open last night that every play they're moving the ball 10 yards. And that would be if they had an effective tackle. If they missed a tackle, the guy was gone. And scoreboard didn't necessarily indicate the level of bludgeoning that game was and dominance of Philadelphia. As the Eagles, which was a cutesy team, Lubie, a lot of the wise guys like the Eagles this year. They go all the way. I didn't see it. I don't know enough about the Eagles to really give you a comment that would be based on anything of in the area of knowledge. But I just, until they do something spectacular, I guess it would be hard to take notice. But they looked really efficient last night. And Jalen Hurts, who I thought was really a lousy professional quarterback, possibility, ended up looking great in the ballgame. So I think he completed his first 12 or 13 passes and ended up going 26 of 32. I mean, a ridiculous percentage. But you talk about Red Sea defense. I mean, Minnesota just, what happened to them? Where were the purple people eaters last night? They got 0 pressure on this guy also, 0.0, Blutarski. It was ugly. So interesting, but Philadelphia looked really good in the ball game. They dominated Minnesota, who everybody was raving about after week number 1. Even our man Brett Tusser was saying, "Wow, watch out, Minnesota! Look how good they look." They got rid of Zimmer, who was the antichrist of offense, and they let Kirk Cousins go, and he's going to be throwing a rock all over the place. And come out and just got spanked right from the beginning of that ball game. They were never in it, and anytime they had a chance to get back in it, Cousins found a way to take them right back out of it. Is there such a thing as a timely pick? I don't think so. But these were clearly characterized as untimely picks. including after they miraculously get the ball back after a blocked field goal attempt, and they end up on the Philadelphia 30 with a chance. I mean, well, whatever chance they had to get back into the game, they had to score in that possession. And a couple of plays into it, Cousins throws a pick in, a terrible piece of decision making. And that was it. Pretty much ball game over, 24-7. Philadelphia Eagles over Minnesota last night. 44-7. Was that the final, or was 41-7? 41-7. Buffalo Bills. And the Bills took the foot off the gas pedal there. They had Case Keenum in the game, I think early in maybe even late in the third quarter, substituting. So Josh Allen's on the bench partying. And those are the guys that come swaggering into town on Sunday to take on the Miami Dolphins. Now, that will be your proverbial statement game, will it not? Lubie, it's going to be a statement one way or the other. If the Bills dominate the Dolphins, then we know the party's over. That's it. Start singing. I mean, it's Don Meredith time. The party's over. Flowers are in the bunches, we like to say.
The Bills right now are the class of the NFL. So, like, the Dolphins lose. To me, I just want to see them be competitive. I know there's no moral victories, but if the team is the best in the NFL and no one thinks the Dolphins are that, they're trying to become a playoff team, that if you have a representative effort against the Bills, I'll accept that. Now, if you get bludgeoned again, that's a different story. That's my concern, is that the Bills are just rolling. And that Dolphins defense was not good. And the Bills offense is a lot better than the Ravens offense. So, like, the Ravens were able to just go up and down the field for, I would say, about 80% of their drives. What the hell are the Bills going to do?
Well, we'll see. I mean, a couple of things in the Dolphins' favor. They're at home in September, and you're figuring the heat is going to be on, literally. And then on top of that, and I would imagine the numbers are very unfavorable for teams that played on a Monday Night Football game, win or lose, and then go on the road the subsequent week. And especially against the point spread, which I saw yesterday. I don't know if this has changed because I got stiffed on my New York Post delivery this morning. Very upsetting. But the line was 4.5 before the Bills played last night. I don't know if that's changed. Now, it wouldn't have been reflected in this newspaper anyway. But do you see a line? Maybe you can check that out. It was 4.5. The Bills favored on the road against the Miami Dolphins, even after the Phins' spectacular comeback in the fourth quarter. Sight unseen, the Bills were in week number 2. But after what they did, I would think, wow. I mean, what? 4.5? Is that the way the line is going to stay? What do you think?
I saw what I'm saying. I don't know if it's jumped or.
Would you want more points if you were going to bet the Dolphins?
It's 5.5 right now.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Dolphins are at home.
Probably went up.
And they are 2-0, and it's 5-0.
2-0 team, and a team in your division that's also 2-0. And they're 5.5 point favorites on the road against you after playing on Monday Night Football, which don't think these bookmakers don't take this into account. It's amazing. Wow, you know what? The marriage of betting in the NFL still is overwhelming, is it not? My God. It's only a matter of time. I mean, are the referees really wearing like FanDuel logos on their... It may as well be, man, because obviously it looks like they have action on the game. Some of them. Some of these calls are ridiculous. It's crazy. That call, I mean, here's the thing. When something's inconsequential, should it be called? That's always the debate in sports. Where in that Arizona Raiders game, for example, and people are all over Josh McDaniels now. He's lost two games. Weren't they both like by the closest, nose hair of margins? I mean, in this game they blew to Arizona. They're up 20-0. They're in total dominance. And, but it took like a series of miracles for Arizona to come back and even tie that ball game up and send it into overtime. And then it still looked like they were going to lose in overtime. But you had a series of wild plays that take place in succession where you had the Raiders, they fumbled the ball once and they recovered it. And then they had another play that I think was a near interception. And then they finally fumbled the ball again that went for the touchdown and took them out of it and ultimately pinned them with a loss. But there was a play where Arizona, what was in the final half minute, they were knocking on the door. It looked like they were going to go in. And I believe it was a 4th and goal. And you had Kyler Murray drops back to pass, and he's scrambling around like a maniac. And there was a holding call in the end zone. And it was on a guy that was not even anywhere near where I mean, Murray he never looked in this direction. He wasn't going to throw the ball that way. The guy was trying to come back. He was doing one of those, 180 reversals as he was running towards the corner of the end zone, but the play was going the other direction. And then as he was coming back, he bumps into a guy who, did get an arm around him, but it wasn't enough of a hesitation that he caused to even draw a flag if he was the receiver that was designed to catch the ball. But he was hopelessly out of the play, and they throw the flag, and they give him 4 more plays from the 1-yard line. I mean, is that not some hard luck, Lubie? And what kind of officiating is that?
It was
where a ticky-tack holding call miles away from the play ends up, turning out to be a very deciding and decisive call in that ballgame.
Well,
you gave him 4 new plays, erased the whole situation.
And the announcers brought up something that I didn't even know was a rule, but it actually makes sense. Once the quarterback leaves the pocket and starts scrambling, you're actually allowed to grab. So they threw the flag early, so people presumed he was in the pocket, but they really don't know.
What kind of deal was that?
So
how do you call that? Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, that was Terry Porter coming across the field there, Canes, Ohio State.
Yep.
Many, many years ago. What was that, 2000, 2001, somewhere in that era?
2002.
And, I remember Paul D was, running out on the field there, the athletic director at the time, and I think they doused him with Gatorade, and they had to pull one of those deals they did with Bobby Bowden where they had to blow dry him off after they had doused him because, you know what? We have another play left in the game, and you're going to end up on the losing side. Incredible.
Bobby won that game. You remember that wrong. That was the Nebraska championship game.
Oh, yeah?
Bobby, that's not the FSU-UM kick. You combine the two. The FSU-UM kick, he walks on the field excited, and then he stands in disbelief because he sees it miss. The Nebraska championship game there was like a minute left. It looked like there was a sack that was going to end the game, and everyone started celebrating, and then the refs, I still don't know why, but for some reason they stopped the clock, give Nebraska like 40-something seconds, and they rush down the field, and they're able to kick one more field goal, and then they miss it, and Bobby wins. So those are the
Didn't they down someone like Gatorade, and then he ended up losing the game? Yeah.
No.
Where he thought he had a one
early, and then they won the game. The FSU-UM one is the one where he runs on the field thinking he won, and they show that picture, and he wasn't doused, of him staring as it goes. I think it was wide right, and he stares as it goes wide right.
Yes.
He's like, so, but
he was stunned, disbelief. I don't think they actually doused Paul D with Gatorade. I think I made that part up too. Because I like Paul D. I happen to have a lot of contact with him back in the day when I was doing a lot of shows about the University of Miami and calling some of their games. And, I do remember, I mean, you talk about a dark meeting that you thought was going to end up in a firing. I think the Canes were like, I don't know, they hadn't won a game in the Big East in 2 years. And Leonard Hamilton had a losing record. He was losing to like Northern Illinois at home, things like that. It wasn't going well. I mean, he had some hard luck, Leonard Hamilton, in those 2 seasons. I was calling Canes basketball. But, and when you're traveling with a team, this was literally a season on the brink, only it was always on the brink. I mean, it began on the brink and ended on the brink.
The whole thing was a brink.
And I remember being in some shithole place where the Canes were staying on the road. It wasn't like they were in a bad hotel or anything, but it was a town that didn't really offer much in the way of entertainment. And sure enough, somebody just wrote us like the Gettysburg Address here on the chat line, man. That is the longest comment I've ever seen. Oh, that's a guy begging for money there.
Yeah,
it's a funny thing.
This is great. I love that you started reading it on the air. What do I do?
What the hell?
We gotta get rid of it.
Send that man $100 and get him out of our life.
Oh my God.
Do people actually do that, right? I mean, they just turn over their bank accounts to these people. That's crazy.
Probably. Older people do. It's annoying. But they do it and they get away with it.
Yeah, you could feel sympathetic for this guy, right? He says he's, splitting a peanut with his wife for dinner, and that's it. Like he was Lafitte Pink Eye, getting ready to ride in the coaching club American Oaks.
Oh, my God.
Don't overeat there on the plane, Lafitte. Unbelievable. Now, I have great empathy for people who are going through trauma, as evidenced by our position on Ron DeSantis and this ridiculous, just absolutely insane maneuver that is now drawing standing ovations from these right-wingers in Kansas.
I mean, it's human trafficking. It's against the law. And what's great is he didn't even do it in his state, so it's really against the law.
He took that's really beyond the scope.
To
right?
Another state and then took him to another state across state lines. So it's just against the law.
Like why is he going to Texas to pick up these poor people that are trying to escape tyranny in Argentina or Venezuela rather? And look, the people are having a hard enough time. Do you need to fuck with them? I mean, that's really what it boils down to. How does that guy sleep at night? I don't know. People love this guy.
Yeah,
I mean, he's making a very, very big move towards being the Republican candidate for 2024 because you're assuming that the Trumpster might be in enough jackpots that might prevent him from being able to give his full concentration to running for president. How can a guy have this many criminal, things going on?
And people still like him.
How many? This will be a good number. Give me a stat on this. How many Trump associates and close people in the Trump circle have either been indicted or gone to prison, been pardoned, or are under investigation, or in multiple states and federal jurisdictions? What's the number there? It's got to be like at least 25 people, right?
Yeah, it's double digits at least, and I couldn't tell you. I mean, it's a lot. Every day there's someone new.
So. It can't all be like some bizarre conspiracy that the Democrats are behind, and they have the power and the wherewithal to just continue to badger this man. I mean, after a while, don't you start to believe there might be something to it? No? Am I wrong about that?
Well, you're talking to the wrong guy. I thought there was something to it before he got in office. I thought the whole thing was a scam, and we found out it was. It was literally, he found another revenue stream, which we've never heard of. Yes, after people are in office, they do the circuits, whatever. They write books, fine. But when they're in office, they put all that aside because they're running the country.
The guy's trying to sell Goya beans on the,
while in office.
From the Oval Office. He's doing like an infomercial, and these are really good for you. You don't even fart. Okay, Donnie.
Like, all right, okay.
Go eat a couple of cans of black beans and see what happens with your stomach and the gas that it produces. Unbelievable. We don't want to get caught up in that because there's too much fun and too many exciting things happening in the sporting world. So where do we stand, Lubie? You know what? Most people, as excited as they are, this is what's great about sports. As excited as they are, I mean, the whole town is turned on. They're abuzz. And I will say this. The team is exciting. Whether Tua can be the orchestra leader here, which is what he essentially needs to do. I don't know that he needs to be constantly brilliant, but he has. I mean, we were talking about this, and it's true. Waddle and Tyreek Hill are as exciting a pair of wide receivers, Smurfs too, as you could possibly line up together in today's National Football League. Is that a true statement? You might have. When was the last time you could even come close to saying or put the Dolphins in the conversation of having a top-notch wide receiving core across the board? It doesn't even matter who the third or fourth guys are. Those two guys on the outside create enough entertainment quotient that all you need to do is have Tua just light the spark there and get him the ball as many times as he can. 11 times each and over 350 yards, 360 or something between the two guys. Yep. And they're exciting in the short passing game, and they're exciting in the long passing game, and even in the intermediate. Yep. In those tough catches like Waddle made. I mean, that was not an easy catch that he made there for the game. I guess when they finally tied the game. Yeah. That was a game-winning touchdown, right? When Tua kind of zipped one in there, and the defender went by the ball, and it was thrown a little high. But I mean, that was no cinch. That was a pretty good play, and. I think Tua throws a pretty, decent ball from a velocity standpoint, does he not?
It's just getting down the field. He doesn't have a cannon, but he has a decent enough arm. I actually agree with a lot of people who said maybe Tyreek Hill is just too fast. Because that last bomb that he sort of had to slow down, but didn't always have to slow all the way down, but he did slow down a little. Tua threw it before. Tua did throw it early. Tua didn't throw it late. Tua threw it early to a spot. Tyreek Hill just didn't. He overran, he's just really fast. Yeah. I think you can have a cannon and he still can he's that fast where I think he can overrun your throws. Because at first I was like, oh, Tua, but he got it, touchdown, fine. And then the replay, I'm like, oh, he threw it really early. He was nowhere, he was still even with the guy when he threw, which is what you're taught to do. Tyreek Hill is just so fast that sorry.
That one wasn't too bad. I mean, he hesitated like a half a step there as the ball was being caught. First one was a little underthrown. The defenders almost caught up with him, but nonetheless, at least it got there. Yeah. So, I mean, not everything's going to be perfect. When you look, actually, it's kind of interesting because when you watch some of these passes in the pros, it's remarkable. The degree of difficulty. That throw that Kyler Murray makes for the 2-point conversion in an Arizona Raider game, I mean, that had to go through 16 different arms and legs before it got to the back of the end zone where the guy makes a diving catch. These guys are good. There's no doubt about it. When you see all of these whopping salaries, if you could be that good at it, you probably would be able to make a very favorable case for yourself to get that same kind of money because, I mean, they're exceptional at what they do. To get that ball through there, almost impossible. And, you look at the consequences, right? I mean, the slightest thing goes wrong. Fingertip gets on a ball. It goes off some guy's helmet, doinks its way out to the 5-yard line. Some lineman picks it up. Everybody falls down. He goes all the way, and you look like a schmuck. and that's the way it goes. So, no, it'll be interesting. But your gut feeling, as we kind of wrap up a long, rambling opening segment here about the Buffalo Bills and the Dolphins game. I mean, are the Dolphins in there with a fighting chance?
Yeah.
Is this one you could steal? Is there that feeling here in South Florida, the city of false hope? Is there that feeling that is permeating the atmosphere here and, just all over the place when you're walking into the grocery store and you say, hey, Johnny, how you doing? Yeah, what do you think about the game this week? Are we going to get some of that here? Because we haven't had that going on for a long time either, not since Danny Boy was playing. Has there been this kind of excitement about a team? And yet, does it go right out the window when the Buffalo Bills come to town? Do they flatten them like a Parisian runway model and just roll right over the Miami Dolphins in their home park, embarrass them, rub their face in the dirt? And we go back to thinking, hey, you know what? It's okay to be mediocre. No?
I think it's funny. The weather hasn't mattered yet, but every time we talk to someone who's in that region, it's like in the 40s to 60s. Right, like Mayo said,
it was 60 degrees. It was balmy last night. I mean, that's good weather for that area.
Well, what I'm saying is Buffalo's even worse, right? So
yeah, Buffalo.
They're past playing in the heat. It's still hot as hell down here.
No doubt,
it hasn't changed at all for us. So I'm hoping that the old school playing in the heat in South Florida thing will matter, and they haven't done it yet. They like to do a lot of offensive plays that he likes to run. I'm hoping that will affect them. And this team started really slow this last week, and they came on strong. So I'm hoping from the Dolphins' perspective that they've sort of learned a lesson in that regard, because you can't waste time with the Bills. Like, you saw it last night. I turned it on, and I'm like, oh, it's already over. And it just started. And I was like, oh, that's annoying. Like, can't.
That game was already decided in the early going. By the time I got home, it was already pretty much over. It was like 21-7 or something. Ridiculous. All right, we have a lot to discuss here on the program. Some stuff happening in baseball also. Don't mean to ignore the small round spheroid there. That you had a thing last night. Now Max Scherzer's been on the injured list, and he's been out for a couple of weeks. Comes back. How about this? He comes back. This was his first performance back. They had to lift him because he hadn't been pitching. 6 innings of perfect baseball. He had a perfecto going for 6, and they lifted him. You probably wouldn't have seen that back in the day, right? Guy would have come back, well, first of all, he would have never been on the injured list because he would have just gone ahead and pitched anyway. And a 6-inning perfecto, though, and then they had to take him out. The Mets, though, did clinch a playoff spot, but that race is still tight. And it's a 1-game differential. And I believe, if you were talking about it in hockey terms, the Atlanta Braves have 2 games in hand. So that 1 game essentially is made up by the fact that the Mets have played 2 more ball games to this point than the Atlanta Braves. And wow, what a differential, huh? Lubie, I mean, very exciting. That's one thing. The adding of playoff teams usually is to the detriment of the quality of ball that you're going to get in the postseason. But the fact that they've made their, one of the things, it was silly, right? With 20 games to go, like the Dodgers have already clinched their division.
Yeah.
So before they added in these wild card playoff teams, Bob Costas was radically opposed to that. Remember that? Yeah. He constantly referenced, remember in that 97 World Series? And the Marlins, who were a wild card team. Okay, Bob, give it up already.
And I liked him actually. He was like,
I'm
to
a
me,
Costas fan, huge Costas
he's
fan.
your like with Mel. What is it? Mel Allen's the one that not Mel Allen. What's the one when you grew up was the guy that you like? What did he do? Yankee games, and he did.
Mel Allen was the voice of the Yanks. Yeah. Oh, Red Barber, you're talking about?
No, your favorite guy growing up was Mel Allen, right?
Mel Allen, yeah. Oh, for sure.
Was my favorite guy. Like I love Bob Costas, and the fact that I got to meet him twice because he did work in the studio, and he let me sit in for an hour when he did that show in conversation I used to like.
Yeah, that was an excellent show, by the way. Great interviewer.
Really good.
Bob Costas.
He let me sit with him while he listened, and then he talked to me for an hour. Like he actually was one of that you met a hero, and he actually superseded expectations. So I always liked Bob Costas, even then. But I do remember that little series going, okay, Bob, it's enough. Like, we get it.
Yeah. Well, and the truth is, I mean, he calls some games now for MLB Network, and it's a pleasure when he's doing a call. It really is. I mean, and there's a guy actually that makes a difference. Whereas I don't believe that Joe Buck and Troy Aikman make any difference whatsoever in a ball game. I did pick up on something that, Aikman, he made a point actually that I thought, wow, that has some relevance, which was that the Minnesota defensive coordinator made zero adjustments to what was going on the entire game. Did he not have the personnel to do that? Is he just blind? Could he not see that he was getting picked apart by Jalen Hurts when the opposing team's quarterback is 16 for 16? And you're the defensive coordinator. If you have any stats in front of you whatsoever, I mean, if you couldn't just see this, with the naked eye, and you had to actually have somebody like research it for you that you're getting destroyed, and you might want to try something different. If you're hitting a shot to a guy, like last night, right? I mean, you're hitting a shot to the same spot every time with the same velocity on it, and the guy's destroying it every time. Would you not think, hey, let me try to go to the other side?
Yes.
Anything, right, to get the ball out of that, the wheelhouse of your opponent. And, so that might have been relevant. Troy Aikman came through with that a few times during the ball game last night, that he's seeing zero in the way of adjustments to what Philadelphia was doing. How could you possibly, with 6 guys in the booth, and they got a guy, that has like a drone flying overhead, and he's taking pictures. How do you not see that you're getting destroyed? Because you have like, a zone defense with 3 guys deep the entire time. And that your corners, I mean, what happened to Mike Haynes and Lester Hayes? Just get in your face defenders.
Oh, you can't. You can't.
Guys 5 yards off the line of scrimmage and immediately starts backpedaling. Of course you're going to be able to complete like the old button hook right in front of the guy. No, come on. You and I could play pitch and catch on those.
My worst nightmare is when it's 3rd and 5 and they're standing 8 yards off. It's like, how quick what you're going to have to do to get to him, he's going to run right by you. Like, what? Yeah. How is that even going to like?
What happened to, just attacking man-on-man defensive coverage in these spots? Is that gone? I mean, has the game gotten so sophisticated that you went away from the most basic thing, which is, you know what? I'm going to put Joe on you, and you're not going to be able to. You won't be open the entire game. You're going to be feeling like you're wearing this guy inside your chest, the entire time. Even if you're in the schoolyard, you used to try to play defense like that. No, is it impossible to do in the pros now? I mean, the receivers has such an advantage. Yep. Over the defensive backs. That's possible too, since you can't even blow on a guy without drawing a flag. And in situations like that, I mean that thing with the Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals. I mean that was ridiculous, huh? If you're Josh McDaniels, you must feel like you're cursed that the league has it in for you. No.
Honestly, well,
do they not want? I mean, you would think the league would be the biggest advocates of helping the Raiders in any way possible to have a team in Las Vegas in the Super Bowl. Can you imagine with their partnership with FanDuel? I mean, I don't think that this hasn't been discussed in smoke-filled rooms somewhere in the bowels of the NFL offices where Raj is in there with who runs FanDuel? I don't know. Probably should. But, and they're sitting down there going, I'll tell you what it's going to be. We're going to have the Super Bowl in Las Vegas, and the Raiders are going to be in it. What kind of money is going to be bet on that game? A fortune, my friend. Imagine the world coming to Las Vegas for a Super Bowl game. When is that happening? Is that happening soon? Super Bowl in Vegas?
I think it's next year. This year, I think is Arizona, and next year is Las Vegas.
We're going to have to find a way to get back into my Radio Row mode for that. I think we do it. I think we do the podcast from Vegas.
Oh, we have to.
Yeah, we're going to have to sign up for that one. Hopefully, we still qualify for.
Oh, it's annoying. It's 2024.
This level of credential.
Las Vegas will host its first Super Bowl in 2024. That's annoying.
I might be dead by then. I don't know.
Dead. It's just I don't know how much you want to.
Are you dead if you're betting the Dolphins in this game? That's the question. All right, and there are many other marquee matchups on the board. College football. So far, we've seen the powerhouses take on only cupcakes. Now it's been hostess Twinkie time.
Yeah.
Ring dings, ding dongs. I mean, whatever you want to say your favorite cupcake was, that's pretty much what these guys have been beating up on. So, what do we really know about Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan? What do we know about these guys?
Georgia played Oregon, who ever since Georgia's been dominant. So
and Oregon was good last week.
Well, been dominant. I mean, they kicked the crap out of BYU, who people thought had a chance to win that game. BYU was actually a higher team, and they annihilated them. So Oregon's been good in every game but the Georgia game. So that sort of tells you, no, it's just Georgia. It's like the Bills. Like, no, the Bills are just great. Georgia is just great. Now, the rest of them, that's a good question because Alabama struggled against a Texas team. We really don't know what they are. Ohio State has been fine, but hasn't been dominant. Michigan's been dominant, but they played no one. Oklahoma's been good, but not great. Clemson's not been good. Clemson was in a dogfight with Fordham.
Right.
Clemson has not been good. Yeah, no, it was like Fordham. Their second game. And Georgia Tech sucks. And they didn't cover that game until like the end of the game. Like they weren't covering this. Like there's one team that's great and everyone else is like, okay, we'll see.
What about Urban Meyer at FSU, Lubie? How do you feel about that? Urban Meyer, FSU. They're 3-0, and people are talking about Urban Meyer replacing his cat already.
Really? Oh, I haven't heard that. No, he's not going to FSU.
You haven't seen it?
Nebraska. No, Nebraska. Well, I know that
Nebraska naturally is, probably already made a few calls, right?
I mean, I guess I would. I don't know. That guy's
the pillar of integrity. Talking about our local political scene and our nationwide political scene. The pillar of integrity. I mean, just a man that is above reproach, man. Unbelievable. Urban Meyer.
When do these guys not get chances? Like everything he did in Jacksonville was so scummy. Like now
if you were ever going to be exposed as a complete rat,
like he was so bad.
If it wasn't already evident to people, the stuff at the University of Florida with the criminals, the business with going ahead and basically condoning. Or at least, harboring a guy on your coaching staff who you knew was beating the crap out of his wife, who you also knew personally.
Yep.
I mean, a disgusting position to take. There's loyalty, and then there's, just criminal behavior, and that's Urban Meyer. And then this other business, I don't know what he was doing. That twerking incident seemed to be the one that called the most attention to him.
He did a lot, though. That's the thing.
He looked like he was trying to park this woman that, supposedly he was friends with.
Didn't he kick a player? Didn't he kick a field goal kicker?
Oh, yeah, and he kicked the field goal kicker in the ball.
Come on, like, that's
because he missed a field goal in practice.
You can't, come on. I mean, you put him around kids.
First name that comes up, University of Nebraska wants to restore its level of greatness to the days of Dr. Tom Osborne, and guess what? Urban in the discussion. Although I did see whoever wrote the article that I was reading about that did briefly attach his name to Florida State.
Of course.
Now it might have been under the auspices of that this would be a better kind of spot for him.
Oh yeah.
He's going to try and straighten out or restore Florida State to its body.
Recruited the crap out of the state of Florida. That's what's so funny about all of this. Like you can see him be a scumbag, and then parents will send their kids. I guess the kids make decisions, but it's like. I always remember hearing, I would never let my kid play for that guy. Like, what guy fits that moniker better than him? Like, who's like...
The teams now, college programs, do they have general managers? They should have, general managers because, these guys are coming out of the transfer portal.
They do. They have GM.
And then on top of that, you have to be greeting them with, this is Mr. Ruiz.
They're at the portal.
He'll be taking you to several fine restaurants tonight, and you can discuss what you might be doing for his organization in the future in terms of name, image, and likeness. We were thinking about maybe making some towels and putting them in the fountain with your picture on them. Oh, yeah, several $1 million. Don't worry about it. Wow. Your dad will be taken care of. That was still the best, the Reggie Bush thing. I'll never forget that when they were making a big deal about it, and very sad circumstances. Parents were homeless or whatever; they were living in the back of a car, and then Reggie signed his deal with USC, and they're standing in a panic with Bob Baffert at Del Mar, saddling the favorite in the Del Mar debutante. And you're thinking, wow, when did they get into horse racing?
And he said the top 2 candidates for Nebraska are Urban Meyer and Jim Jordan. You know what Jim Jordan did at Ohio State?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Wrestling coach, be a total degenerate fucking head of whatever harasser, and he just was like, all right.
And this guy gets elected, now as a flaming asshole, as a
loud. He doesn't give a shit. He ignores all the crap he did.
My God. It's a sea of denial. It really is. Just go ahead. A woman, what woman? Our favorite theory. All right, we're coming back with more. We have a couple of guests coming up on the program, so we'll get into this thing with the Patriots.
Yes, sir.
And maybe some other things with Seth Wickersham, who I think is also very well versed in some other areas of sports.
He was a sports journalist for ESPN. He was like the guy that would do investigative reporting.
Right. That's where we know him from. Okay, very good. And then later on, Chris Perkins on the Miami Dolphins and their chances of beating the Buffalo Bills. Perk, not the most. I mean, he's not one of these guys that just jump on a bandwagon.
No.
Very discriminating in his opinion, about even the team that he's covering, where you would think, for the position that he's in, it would be advantageous if they somehow turned into a juggernaut, no?
Dave Hyde does. Dave Hyde has actually been honest. Whenever you really believed it, and again, they got so bad that even you were like, okay, they're a little too bad for my own beliefs. But Dave Hyde would always be like, no, you're wrong. It gets old, and like you want to see a team win. You don't root for them per se, but it's a better story when they're winning because people care more. Like, look at the Heat. You would always point out the Heat because the Heat became the number 1 story in town because they won.
Yeah.
Bert just says what he feels, and is very honest.
But I thought they did a great job. Now they're still having to juggle this offensive line around a little bit. Yes. And I don't know that it was that great to begin with, but it's been good enough. You don't see Tua running for his life on every play, do you?
Second half, the first game, the offensive line was abysmal. The first half, the offensive line was not good. The second half of this week, the offensive line was improved. I don't know what they did. They changed the game plan. Whatever the hell they did, it was better in the second half. Still not great.
Brought back Tony Sperano from the grave. What are you talking about? His voice was speaking to them over the system there at the practice facility. You must block your man. All right, we're coming back with more. Hialeah Park, great place to go. Hialeah Park is a beautiful destination. You talk about the top in entertainment and in the entertainment field. The Brunetti's been doing it forever, and they really aim to please. It's unreal. The Players Card program, the rewards program, is just fantastic. We always recommend to people, get a Players Card. If you haven't been there, first time you walk in there, just turn right around to the Players window there, and you will be rewarded richly. Whether you're a new player or especially, I mean, if you're somebody that has a high-level casino Players Card from some other entity, gambling entity, bring it to Hialeah, you're immediately of that stature there. Which is great, man. I mean, I got to send the Mustang in there, get a new card, right? I think, it's been a while. She loves that place, man. She loves Hialeah. Now, it's not exactly around the corner from where I am, but it's worth the drive from anywhere because they always have great entertainment, and you're in there with a shot to win, which is what I really like about a casino.
The thing is, you guys, because whenever I've done, and I've done a lot, I automatically lose. You guys have a lot of stories of winning, and again, I don't know how they stay in business because every other casino, you have no shot at winning. And it seems like people win quite often there. But at least okay, I have a shot at least.
You're in there with a chance, yeah. You can feel the vibe. I mean, it's very depressing to be in some of these casinos where the only time, you have the call attendant, which usually, is a good thing because that means you're getting a payoff, a cash payout, that's too large for the machines to accommodate. Is because the machine broke and sucked up your voucher. And now you're stuck there. You have to stand by the machine for now. Can somebody help me? Hello? I lost a voucher in here. It's not like that at Hialeah Park. They really take care of their customers there. It's just absolutely fantastic. Champion Simulcasting Room, my favorite spot. I mean, bet the ponies there. A lot of good stuff coming up. The Breeders' Cup might be a good time to get down there and pay a visit to our friends at Hialeah Park for the Breeders' Cup because a perfect place. I mean, man, you get the vibe, too, because you look outside. still as beautiful as ever, Hialeah Park. Poker rooms, dynamite, great food and drink. And they're not charging you an arm and a leg. You're not going to get some kind of sticker shock when you buy a couple of drinks like at a hockey game and it comes to $36 and you're thinking, wait a minute, does this come with a friction dance? No. They take care of you at Hialeah Park. And you will be dancing your fanny off because they have live DJs and all kinds of musical festivities going on there, especially on the weekends. Check it out for yourself. Open up at 9 o'clock every day, the casino doors, and open till 3 a.m. during the week. And 5 a.m. on the weekends, Friday and Saturday night. It's a great idea to make your entertainment destination of choice. Beautiful Hialeah Park. All right, we're coming back with more in just a moment here. The Defo Show, Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubitz. Thanks, everybody, for the comments on the comment line. Always appreciate that. And, how is that? Are we just exposed to some, infectious universe of seedy people that can get through on his chat line? Because we had a couple of porn sites on there, and then this latest thing. Which did anybody give that guy money? By the way, that was up there. That could see the chat line.
No, I removed it. I hope no one can still see it. That was ridiculous.
That was a lot of reading. I mean, we'll work for food. Would have worked for me. I mean, I'd be more inclined to send a guy at 20 if that was the pitch. All right, we're coming back with more. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubitz here in South Florida Live. Back with more in a moment. Now that.
The time.
It's 7:56. Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
Hey folks, Tony Segreto here. You know, since day one, Catholic Health Services has been part of Old School. And since we've started letting people know about them, it's changed their lives. You see, Catholic Health Services, while being recognized as one of the top places for stroke rehab in the country, it's also about a group of people who not just excel in what they do, from the doctors to the nurses to the therapist, on and on and on. It's how they do what they do every single day that separates them from the pack. They do it with a passion, unmatched, and the inclusion of family in every step of the process. Trust me when I tell you this. If you want the best, unmatched rehab with a special group of skilled, caring people, there is truly only one place, and that one place is Catholic Health Services.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. Their hours have changed a little bit. Monday through Thursday from 3:30 to 10, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 11:30 to 10. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Mr. Pentangeli, were you a member of the Corleone family? Did you serve under capo regime under Vito Corleone, also known as the Godfather?
I never knew no Godfather.
Mr. Pentangeli, you are contradicting a sworn statement you previously made to me and signed. I ask you again, sir, here and now under oath, were you at any time a member of a crime organization headed by Michael Corleone?
I don't know nothing about that. Oh, I was in the olive oil business with his father, but that was a long time ago, that's all.
We have a sworn affidavit. We have it. Your sworn affidavit that you murdered on the orders of Michael Corleone. Do you deny this confession?
Look, the FBI guys, they promised me a deal. So I made up a lot of stuff about Michael Corleone, because that's what they wanted. But it was all lies. Everything. And I kept saying, Michael Corleone did this, and Michael Corleone did that. So I said, yeah, sure.
It's now time for the Defo Show.
All right, welcome back to the show, the Defo Show here on South Florida Live. How are you, Mike Louie Lubitz?
I'm good. Did you just see? Did you? Andy responded to Arnold. Here, Arnold. Yeah. Here's my social. Here's my bank info for your throat cancer for your brain. That's my problem with their stories. It's never consistent. It's like, I don't think that's a thing, bud.
You would think they would clean that up. I mean, that is now my most repulsive, comment that you ever hear from a coach. We got a few things we got to clean up.
Oh yeah. Oh, good. Right? I hope you lost by 30.
Yeah, we gave up a 107-yard, kickoff return for a touchdown on the opening play. We got a few things we got to clean up on special teams. It's like, yeah, like clean house when it comes to where your staff is operating. It's ugly. All right, welcome back to the show. Good to have you guys with us here. Seth Wickersham going to join us in just a few minutes. Very versatile, as you mentioned. Lubie has the book out about the Patriots there. I think that came out a while back, though. So I'm pretty sure we discussed this with him before, about a year ago.
I don't believe we've never had him on here, so I figured why not. He was a good interview. We enjoyed it, and he's going to be.
Oh yeah. Did a lot of investigative reporting, and as reported on ESPN television and the magazine and other sources as well, other platforms as well, reported on a lot of different things. And, I did something on like Greg Popovich. That must not have been easy, huh? Did he follow Popovich around for a while? Seth Wickersham? We'll have to find out about that because I don't know. I mean, even with open access to Popovich, if you're a reporter, I think he just, talk about being repulsed. Well, was that an act with Popovich the entire time? No, I mean with Craig Sager, and he became obviously, a very beloved figure, especially as he was working while he was battling cancer, and a very brave fight that he put up. And it was kind of a message in there. If somebody could leave this life with a message that left an impression with you, it would be that do your thing, to the end. Which is exactly what Sager was doing. I mean, fighting all kinds of, not necessarily the most, overwhelming job where you're the sideline reporter for NBA stuff where, what are you really going to ask the guy? Hey, you're down 7 at halftime. What are you going to do different in the second half? And the coach, I guess they're pretty gracious about fulfilling their obligation to answer those questions. Most of them are. But Popovich made a game out of it where, he would go Belichick. And, stop just short of shoving the guy, like he was one of those guys that Mike Wallace cameraman had approached on 60 Minutes that was coming into some transmission shop where they were putting bogus transmissions into cars that were causing, a lot of, great difficulties on the roadways because all of these cars were breaking down constantly. And the guy would give it the old, none of that there, Mike. You're not getting in here with those guys. But anyway, yeah, so we'll talk to Seth Wickersham in just a few minutes here on the show. And still, I mean, you have to concede, cheating or no cheating, the ability to sustain that Patriots dynasty. And a lot of people want to throw up at the mere mention of the words Tom Brady or New England Patriots. But that also is part of the beauty of sport, where, here's this perennial champion that most people just absolutely despise. I'm not sure that's true. Do you think more people would jump on the bandwagon of a winner, regardless of whatever ethical indiscretions they might be guilty of? Well, we'll find out. Seth Wickersham joins us right now, and of course, he had the book about the New England Patriots, and had, as I recall. By the way, how are you, Seth? Good to have you on the program. Thanks for joining us here on the show. All right, we thought we had Seth Wickersham, but there is little or no response coming from the other end right now. I see Lubie punching some buttons there. You can actually see how this works. There's Seth Wickersham. Seth, how are you, my friend? Good to have you on the show.
I'm great. How are you?
Good morning, sir.
We're doing all right. I mean, we kind of did a little double take on this thing. This is take two on this, initial question and our thought process. But Did you not have, I mean, unprecedented access, as I recall? Am I mistaken? Where you got unprecedented access to the Patriots by going through Bob Kraft? Is that the way this came about?
The book? No. I mean, I think that like I had great access, but it wasn't, I didn't like get it through Robert Kraft, but I mean, I was kind of lucky in a lot of ways that the Patriots' rise, by coincidence, it kind of began when my career did. And I got to know, Tom Brady when we were both 24. And, I spoke with Bill Belichick many times. Like, sometimes he would call late at night to talk about whatever it is that we were talking about. And, I'd done investigative pieces on the Patriots. So I'd done stories that flattered them and that angered them. And I felt like I had a particularly kind of well-rounded view of their greatness and the forces that led to it and the cost of it all. And that's, my goal with the book and my goal with the paperback, which is out now, is just to take fans and readers as close as I possibly could to, again, those factors and forces that led to their greatness and, what the costs of that greatness have been.
Well, and it's a very divisive topic, especially here in South Florida, where in general, as you can imagine, Seth, the Patriots are not held in particularly high regard. No matter what, I mean, you'll never hear Belichick, pronounced that way. It's always going to be Belichick, and the people just despise Tom Brady. And we thought he was washed up 5 years ago, and we're not afraid to go ahead and make ourselves look foolish by saying so publicly on whatever platform we would have. But it's interesting because even if you think that they were the biggest cheats in the history of sports, bigger than the Black Sox or anything else, any other scandalous, Boston College, organization that has been involved in this sort of thing of cheating, even if you thought the worst of them, you had to respect. I mean, it's pure genius that, and it wasn't just Tom Brady and Belichick. I guess that to perpetuate that level for such a long period of time in the current era of National Football League parameters is really unbelievable. I mean, as solid a dynasty as any that's ever existed.
There's no doubt, and I also think that their scandals are, they attend that greatness, and they're more related than people realize. I think people realize, hey, they broke the rules of Spygate. That explains everything, when really it doesn't. It's actually like a byproduct of a compulsion and a knowledge and a willingness to exploit every loophole and step on, play in the gray area and, push every boundary for the chance to win football games. And, I feel like that, I've written about Spygate and reported on it as much as anybody, especially with my colleague Don Van Natta. And, when you look at really the roots of what they were doing and the rule breaking and why they kept breaking the rule despite warnings from the league to stop doing it, to stop filming the other team, I hopefully try to show not only what they did in raw terms, but also a little bit of the why and how, this stuff is a little bit more related. When I talk about the cost of greatness, it's a little bit more related than maybe we might give it credit for, where a lot of people just write them off as cheaters when in fact, they broke the rules, which there's no excuse for, but why they did it is more closely linked to the things that produce so many successes, some of the best games in NFL history, best finishes, than maybe we all want to admit.
Well, and on that, Seth, look down here, the cheating, it comes up a lot earlier than when you talk about the Patriots nationally. And you're not excusing it. You're saying, look, this is why. And we've heard that, like Bill Belichick, even when he didn't need to cheat, he couldn't help himself. He had to get every angle possible.
Yeah.
Fine. Where does it fit, though? Because it still existed. And it happened it happened multiple times. And some were more egregious than they got credit for. Some were less egregious than they got blamed for. But where does it fit in their greatness? When you look at their legacy, when we look back, unbiased, where does the cheating fit? Where does it go?
I think it's a big part of it. I think that it sits alongside, their accomplishments. And it's a very odd dynasty, right? I mean, six Super Bowls over 2 decades, and yet they lost 3 first-round picks for punishments in terms of breaking the rules during that time. Spygate, Deflategate, and then, of course, there was like a video incident with like their social or their in-house video crew, which I think was not exemplar of cheating. It was sloppiness on their part, but because the Patriots had been such repeat offenders, the league had no choice, and they took a first-round pick away from them. And so, that's part of their legacy. I mean, nobody else has had to deal with that. I mean, there's a dark side to every dynasty. You talk about the Steelers from the 70s, and the more you look under the hood, you see, rampant drug use. And, with the 49ers, of the 80s, remember, they were the ones who kind of pioneered the idea of knocking out the opponent's phones early in games so that they couldn't communicate as well. And then that would give the 49ers an edge because they knew that the phones were going to go out and they could figure out a way to exploit that. Dallas Cowboys, I mean, man, there's a lot going on with those Dallas Cowboys teams in the 90s. So you bring the Patriots along, and it's a little bit different, right? You don't have the, for lack of a better word, debauchery, right? You don't have the steroid stuff. You don't have the partying. Aaron Hernandez is in there, but I don't hold that personally against them. I don't think they were knowingly harboring a murderer. But the cheating and the way that they were doing it is really interesting because it's indicative of 2 men, Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, who understood that the difference in football, the margins are so slim. And when it came to deflating footballs, so that they felt a little bit better in Tom Brady's hand, even if it was against the rules, or filming other teams during games after time and time and time and time of being warned to stop doing it, they couldn't help themselves. And so there's a greediness and a selfishness and a ruthlessness that goes alongside just unparalleled football knowledge, preparation, and work ethic.
I see John Malkovich maybe playing an older Bill Belichick when they finally do the Bill Belichick story, a sinister scientific fiend who, even though he could have used his brain to do immense good for humanity, decided to go out and pursue an evil path. All right. So you knew Belichick for a long period of time. Not many people do. One of our sponsors is Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, which is a dynamite place. If you're ever down in the South Florida area, go to Key Largo and visit the Big Chill down there. Great food and drink. Try the Italian Fisherman Pizza, Seth. That's solid recommendation. But Jimmy and Belichick are fast friends, and the word is that Belichick is like a delightful, gregarious guy, and a hoot to be around. When the only impression that you could possibly have is that you would rather be, working in a morgue with a funeral director that wasn't particularly friendly. When you see him at these press conferences, which, I don't know, is he putting everybody on with that act? What do you make of that?
Well, we all have multiple selves, right? I think that Belichick, when he's on a boat with Jimmy Johnson talking football, and I mean, they are good friends, and Bill has learned a lot from Jimmy, especially in the 90s. It's pretty wild to think that there was a moment where Jimmy Johnson was the head coach of the Dolphins and he almost had Bill Belichick as his defensive coordinator. If that had happened with Dan Marino, even though Dan Marino was at the end of his career, I mean, that would have been a spectacular team. I think that, look, Bill has, like I said, multiple selves. And I think that the most interesting thing to me is not hey, how he acted at a press conference versus how he acts when he's getting beers with Jimmy Johnson. It was the environment that he created. And it broke people. I mean, it was so businesslike, so cold at times, so ruthlessly eye on the prize, which is always the next game and winning the next game. And, you have Bill who he's both an optimist and a pessimist, and he can only be an optimist after he shows the team all of the ways that they can lose a game. Then he shows them how they can win it. And that system, I think, really, while business schools studied it, for its efficiency and calculation, I think that it really broke people, especially Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski. I think towards the end of their careers, they were just sick of it. And they needed something different. Like I've said, they kind of went from Harvard to Florida State when they went down to Tampa because they just needed a different type of football where they could let their hair down a little bit and be allowed to enjoy the game in a way that New England, perhaps reflective of the head coach, just wasn't ever going to be as the Bucs were under Bruce Arians, for instance.
Well, and it's funny, you must have done a lot of this in your time because you led me to where I was going next is, as great as a system is on the field, and it's the same system off the field where they are very cut. You said it. These other dynasties had a lot of freedom. The Patriots are known for the opposite. You don't have any freedom. You don't go on social media. You barely do interviews. If you do an interview, it's like Brady, and it's the same statements every interview for like 20 years. That system has made much as it made it great, it also made it really tough to be there a long time, both on their end and on your end. And it sort of feels like that's a system that ended things between Brady and Belichick. How much was it like, is it sustainable to have that system and have players there long term? Because it feels like at some point you're going to say, screw it.
Yeah, that's a great question. I guess we're seeing it play out, right? I think that, I don't think it is sustainable for anybody except for Belichick. Because, what makes Belichick and Brady so interesting, even though they're very different personalities, is that they share this compulsion, this, perhaps spectacularly unhealthy obsession with winning football games and the way that the game on Sundays in the fall makes them feel more alive and more of their essential selves than anything else. And the longevity of their careers is as unique as any of their accomplishments. And the fact that they're just still doing it, it's like we all thought that they would be gone by now, and they've had so many chances to exit off the freeway, and yet they just keep blowing by those exits and keep pushing. And, you do ask yourself, to what end? Is it worth these fractured relationships? I think with Brady and Belichick, obviously there's always going to be a love there between them over what they accomplished together, but I don't think there's always a like. And, is all this worth it? Is it worth the family strain that Brady puts on his family, playing football the way that he knows how to do it, the only way that he knows how to do it? And here you have Bill Belichick, now age 70, at an age where he once promised he wasn't going to be on the sideline, still going with, even though he says he's year to year, he doesn't show any signs of wanting to walk away. So it seems like it's not sustainable, but I guess maybe for these two, in various ways it is.
I think Giselle might come between them at some point.
If
she's not already in Tom's head, it doesn't seem to be showing up so far in his play in the regular season through 2 games with the Buccaneers. Seth Wickersham, our guest here on the Defo Show. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubitz here on South Florida Live. Who will go down as, I don't even know if this is a fair question because it's, something that you might want to toss out there for Stephen A. Smith, but
I was going to say
more iconic, in terms of Boston coaching legend. Will it be Red Auerbach or Bill Belichick, or are they one and the same?
I mean, I think they're one and the same. I mean, it's just so different, and they were spread apart through so many decades. But, again, if I could just detour, like one of the things I write about in the paperback version of my book is, that great game last year between the Patriots and the Bucs, because never before in NFL history, at least modern NFL history, have we seen 2 astute football minds go at it on a stage like that. And even though it was in the rain, and even though it was a sloppy game, I thought it was like one of the most fascinating games I'd ever seen, because again, you saw all of the elements that make Brady and Belichick special and unique and help them win games together, and using all of those forces and factors against each other. Yeah. And it came down to the very last play. And I thought that that was interesting, because when you look at obviously where Belichick stands in terms of, Boston legends, he's way up there. But he did make that decision to open the door for Brady to leave, and Brady took it and walked out and goes and wins a Super Bowl. And while I don't think that that's like a black mark on Belichick's resume, but I do think that's part of it, is that of all people on this earth, Robert Kraft and Bill Belichick should have known better than to underestimate Tom Brady. And yet they did that. They let him go. and he felt like they didn't want him, and then he goes and wins the Super Bowl with the Bucs.
Well, and also, I guess another blotch on the resume is when he picked up Steven Jackson at a gas station after he'd been out of the league for 2 years and ran him 35 times against the Dolphins in a playoff or in a regular season finale that seemed meaningless, but it probably cost him a Super Bowl because he then had to subsequently go on the road and face the eventual champion, the Denver Broncos, to whom he lost. So they might have had one more ring on the finger if he didn't outsmart himself in that game. Always, another side to things.
In every Patriots interview that I've done in my entire life, whether it was related to a story or, in the last year related to the book, I've never heard anybody mention that specific thing with Steven Jackson. I'm really impressed you were able to drop that piece of knowledge that really I don't have an answer for.
Because he had
I
money.
was not prepared for that one.
He had money on the Patriots that day. Yes, that he threw the game away.
I can't believe it, man. He may as well have had Reggie Jackson running the ball.
It's all a little bit more crystal clear now.
And it followed a path, and we ended up
exactly.
We ended up cashing on the Broncos in that Super Bowl. In spite of the fact that I think of the reporters we interviewed on Radio Row, 35-1 were in favor of the opposition in that ball game. Right? Yeah, Carolina was supposed to win that in a walk. Seth, always a pleasure. Now this book is available, and we talked about. The New England Patriots, it's better to be feared, which I guess it is, right? From the Chaz Palminteri theory, better to be feared than to be loved?
It is better to be feared. Is it necessary? I think that's a whole different question. But yeah, it's available. It came out a year ago, and it's out in paperback now with some new information and new reporting on last year, Brady's retirement, decision to come back. And so people can pick it up wherever they pick up books.
I don't know if you have another minute, but I was curious about this because we were talking about your appearance on the show. But now, did you follow Popovich around for a period of time? Is that my understanding?
I enjoyed hanging out with him. He reminded me a lot of Bill in some ways, and then not in other ways.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, but he was a master. I think he borrowed some of that act that he used to pull on Craig Sager. From Belichick, no, where the guy, he would ask like a lengthy question like we tend to do, Lubie and I, and then the response was, "What do you think?"
Well, there's a frivolousness that they see, I think, with some of the things that come with the job, whether they're right or wrong, but they share that and they just have no patience for it. And in fact, turn that lack of patience into a version of performance art that other people have tried to replicate, not nearly as successfully. But that said, Popovich, you talked about all the different types of Belichicks that are out there. Popovich, I think it's way more performance art with him than with Bill. I think a lot of these things where he seems a little cranky is a real natural extension of his personality, maybe. Whereas with Popovich, I think he's really acting. And in a way, he's when you get him talking on basketball or history or things that he cares about, he's just so friendly and open. And Belichick can be the same way too, but I think it comes a little bit more naturally, that personality switch to Popovich than it does to Bill.
Do you find that Pop is morphing into Donald Sutherland, the actor? At this point, does he not bear a resemblance to older Donald Sutherland with a beard?
Yeah, that's an astute observation. And now that you've made it, I don't know if I'll be able to unsee that.
That's the unfortunate thing about being a guest on the show.
Exactly, Seth. He's ruined it for me.
You might want to stick to investigative reporting and subject yourself to this. But I appreciate you coming on the show. It's always great conversation.
And now I'm going to see Greg Popovich, on the bench in AFK talking about conspiracy theories.
Follow the money, my friend. Follow the money. That's what it's all about in this life.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Thanks so much for being with us. It was a pleasure.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All
all right. Thanks a lot. Interesting guy, man. Seth Wickersham.
But he's fun. Look, and that's the thing. The professor gives us crap about talking to Patriot people, but he's not a Patriot defender. He's pretty honest for a guy who's gotten such great access to them. He doesn't defend them.
I would say this, Lubie, and I rarely would say this about anything we do, but that was some solid sports talk there. Seth was providing. No, it really was. I mean, because it was interesting.
Seth provided.
Yes.
Sure. I thought you were giving us credit. I'm like,
we just trying to provoke him into, delving into the ridiculous. See, that game stands out for me, though. And if you were going to knock Belichick, I mean, that was a foolish move. He conceded a game to the Miami Dolphins at the end of the regular season. And what year was that? It was like, how long have I been married, Lubie? 7, 8 years, something like that?
Yeah, it wasn't that long.
That was a year we were in San Francisco for the Super Bowl, Radio Row. And then I went to Vegas and got married, no? Yeah.
I think it's more recent than that. I think it was like the last or second last year Brady was there. I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago. It wasn't that long ago that he pulled that stunt. Like it was.
Maybe I'm juxtaposing some facts to make a better story. That's possible. It's not like
It's not new.
Not guilty of that. Oh yeah. It was the Bambino. Of course it was. But I thought that was the scenario. That was the year that the Patriots had to go to Denver because they had an inferior regular season record to the Broncos, who had acquired Peyton Manning, and they ran Steven Jackson in that regular season finale. He hadn't even been in the league, and he carried the ball like 30 times. They conceded the game. The Dolphins won the game. And then because the Patriots had to go on the road, that they missed an opportunity, a giant opportunity, to go to the Super Bowl that year, because that was the AFC title game, wasn't it, in Denver? Patriots and the Denver Broncos. I don't know. We'll have to do some research on that, Lubie.
I think you're mixing things up there, but you may
could
be
be.
right.
Yeah, could be.
Maybe, I don't know.
It was a better story the way I told it, is it not? Than if it was some inconsequential regular season finale that the Patriots just threw in a towel.
Oh no, it screwed them. It did screw them. I remember they assumed they were going to get.
I want to say that was the scenario, though.
No, that's right. You're not wrong there. I'm just trying to remember the year. Like
that was still only about 6 or 7 years ago.
They went from the 1 to 2 seed, I think. They didn't have home field throughout, and then they ended up losing the AFC Championship game because they did not have.
Because they had to go on the road and play in Denver. 100%
right.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to remember the year.
And Peyton Manning was throwing those Zeppelins, but the rarefied air was carrying the ball into the hands of his wide receivers. And the Patriots went down, and the Broncos went on. Remember, that was the year we were in San Fran, right? And everybody on Radio Row thought that the Carolina Panthers were going to win that game, right? And it looked like it was going to be an outright slaughter. You were getting a lot of points there because you had your $10 on Denver.
Yeah, I had $50, but yes, 100%. Because we had heard it
for you to go to 50 at that time too was substantial.
Well, because we had heard it all week, and you and I all week were like, "What are they talking about?" The Broncos' defense is freaking amazing. Even if Peyton Manning's useless, if Cam Newton's rushed, we know Cam Newton's useless too. So, of the defenses, the Broncos' defense is better. And you've said this to me now for 12 years. At the time, I think it was like 6 years or whatever. Like, if we could book the media's action, we'd be rich people.
You'd be a rich man.
To me,
that was a polyman's theory.
Remember, that was at the time where we used to have me track the picks just for shits and giggles.
Oh, yeah.
It was like 26-2. So it was like, I mean, at some point, like, screw it.
Almost routinely, though. I mean, the media is very obsessed with chalk. And I have to say that, I've been guilty of it many, many times where you immediately look at games and the favorite, I don't know that they stand out, but obviously, logic would dictate that the team was favored for something, that had a rational foundation to it. But, and that's a natural tendency. Those Radio Row things it's always dominant and very rarely divided. Have you noticed that, Lubie? Those 11 years that we were cruising around there and surveying like 35, 40 guests during the course of a week and asking them who they liked in the Super Bowl. And it would come out. That was enormous, though. The only guy that liked Denver was Brandon Lang, remember?
Yes, it was Brandon Lang, and I think Brandon Stokely, because he was
one other guy, yeah.
Brandon Stokely was like recently retired from the Broncos, and he was close with Visser Mama, so we got him on with Visser Mama. And I remember him because he had seen more of the Broncos being higher on the Broncos.
All the celebrities, everybody else, yeah.
Media. It was like, because Cam Newton, but it's like they're going to neuter Cam Newton. It's not going to be about Cam Newton. It's going to be about.
It looked like it was going to be a mismatch. It did. But, you were right, and that was great. It was unfortunate the Duke was on the other side of that thing, and he was footing the bill for the entire wedding, including this private room that we had at the Palm at Caesar's Palace, which could not have been, to get them to shut down that entire room and just dedicate it to us.
It was amazing. It was like a big.
It was one time you had to suppress your euphoria there that you were winning a $50 bet.
I think I made like 200.
Because you were eating like $500 worth of lobster. Unbelievable. That was nice. Those were good times. All right, we're coming back with more Chris Perkins. So we'll get into this whole Buffalo Bills Miami Dolphins game and whatever else we can with Chris Perkins. He's coming up in just a few minutes here on the show. Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. I hope Seth Wickersham takes up our proposition and ventures down to Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill next time he's in town. Right? You might run into Belichick down there because, Jimmy holds court there sometimes. He's had all kinds of people in there. And, you're not inclined to gawk at celebrity when you're in the Keys because everybody just sort of blends into a beautiful, feeling it really feels like you're in another world. I noticed that about, even thinking about going down to the Keys, doesn't it seem like you're in another world than you are when you're here in the hustle and bustle of Dade and Broward counties if you're in South Florida. And if you're from out of town, wow, can't get any more, relaxing than you'll find the atmosphere and the whole environment in the Florida Keys. Key Largo is a great spot. Great accommodations if you're coming in from out of town. Unbelievable. Check it out at jimmyjohnsonsbigchill.com. Great food and drink. You could stop at Alabama Jack's and say, yeah, it's a tradition. This is the new tradition, is stopping at Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. And maybe chowing down on one of those Italian fisherman pizzas or any of the fine stuff that has, all of the pizzas they make, those custom pizzas, just absolutely outstanding. And they'll do just about anything too, right? You want a live squid on there? No problem, man. They'll do it. Dominic Kajemi is great like that. And they aim to please. Great staff. Very, very attentive. They really do a dynamite job. Dominic's wife, Amanda, is the general manager there. Larry Calvano is a St. Thomas Aquinas guy. And it has that kind of vibe of success. And yet at the same time as casual and really just relaxing as you can find any place that you'll venture into when you go to the Florida Keys. It's dynamite. It's mile marker 104, the Overseas Highway in Key Largo. Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. Make sure you put it on your itinerary next time you're in that area of the country there. And, it's worth the drive. The Dade County, you're like a half-hour pop, Broward about an hour and 20 minutes. And next thing you know, you're at the splendor of the bayside views that you get and the beautiful sunsets and the great food and drink at Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. All right, coming back with Chris Perkins, who is now the columnist, the Dolphins columnist for the South Florida Sun-Sentinel, man. Guy was out there just kind of, doing his own thing, and the next thing you know, just when he thought he was out, whoosh, they call you back in. They pull you back in. That Penitentiary testimony, I've watched it now a few times. They've been airing some Godfather on Showtime.
Yeah.
And I can't resist anytime that movie's on. It's just like Goodfellas, and I'm getting to the point now where I've already got like most people do, you're mouthing the words as they're being said, and you know the different scenes. But still, outside of that one missed punch that James Caan threw when he was beating up Talia Shire's husband, remember after he chased him down there and he had him like in some kind of little alleyway there and he's hitting the crap out of him. He whiffs on a punch so badly. Nobody, Francis Ford Coppola couldn't have gotten out of film school if he had left this, one little sequence in, which he did. You think he did that as a joke, Lubie? Just, for all the tedious hours of editing that he'd done on films that he just said, let me leave one bad cut in there.
Oh, remember, that movie's old, right? So the editing process was a lot more difficult than it is now. So I feel like there should be a lot more movies that have little misses in them.
Khan throws a right hand at this guy, and you could already see you could see the fakeness of the blows, but this one misses by like a mile. Like you wouldn't even see this on some cheesy Midwestern wrestling circuit where the guy missed that badly, and still got the reaction of the head flying back. So I don't know how he left that in there. That's the one flaw in all of those Godfather movies. Just unbelievable. All right, we're coming back with Chris Perkins in just a moment here on the Defo Show. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubitz. On South Florida Live. Back in a moment. Now that. You think Mayo is recovered, by the way, from all of those burgers? Did he take like a bunch of those home?
I took home a lot more than him, as you have come to know.
Yeah.
I took more home than they gave me like 2 bags. They were giving me desserts.
Gilbert's, man. That was a nice spot. That's where we were yesterday. That was a lot of fun, man. But man, they really poured it on, too, in terms of the stuff they offered up. Because I just chowed down the remains of that cheeseburger this morning there for breakfast.
I took home like 7 days.
You know, and I was looking at it thinking, do I really need this? And the answer was no.
Oh, no.
Yeah. But, wow, delicious. Gilbert's there, 17th Street and Cordova. And, I've been there a while. I had gone there a long, long time ago. I used to frequent that place. For some reason, I was doing some business down there in that area. Might have been going to the boat show or something, and people recommended it. Absolutely fantastic. Gilbert's, what is it called? Gilbert's something grill.
Gilbert's 17th Street Grill.
Yeah. Great spot. And it had more than burgers. I mean, it had some other stuff there on the menu. Chicken wings were great, and pretty wide variety. I think I even saw a woman eating a salad there, which was not necessarily in vogue. But they did have a wide variety of real quality stuff. Gilbert, so we thank him for having us in yesterday. The Mayo Man will be coming up with the lunchbox today at 12 o'clock. And I'm going to place a bet here, Lubie. Do you think he's gone into some kind of reform
Are you
between
serious?
yesterday and today?
I thought that was a joke.
Or is he fully back on board with, like, just,
he's
eating anything in sight? Yeah.
He's eating like garbage. No. He's too natural. Like, you make fun of how I eat, but I never eat everything ever. You can make fun of how gross I am or dirty I am. I'm always trepidatious about jumping into the heavy food. I'm always thinking, even you've actually become really weary about eating garbage. Mayo doesn't think. Mayo naturally grabs everything and eats it at once. That right there tells you who he is and what he is, and he'll always go back to it easy, and that scares the crap out of me.
It's like a human skill crane, man. He just drops the ball on his stuff and picks it up and tries to shovel it in his mouth. All right, we're coming back with Chris Perkins on the Miami Dolphins in just a moment. Now that
the time,
it's 8:36.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs, unmatched. Steaks, hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Recently, we realized it's not just hurricane season that can hurt us. Any time of year, things can happen to your home or business. And the insurance company can be your friend, but they also can be your enemy. Horizon Public Adjusters, Justina Testa, are here for you to help this process go so much easier. Before you call the insurance company, call Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa at 954-809-8755.
I mean, if you look at our organization today, and you've seen what we've done, from every aspect except on the playing field, we're probably the first-class organization in the National Football League.
It's now time for the Defo Show.
That remark by Stephen Ross was laughable when he made it. And, of course, he was right about the fact that except for on the playing field, they still, and now they find themselves in disgrace as an organization, but maybe making something happen on the playing field. We bring in the program here, the Defo Show. Welcome back, everybody. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubitz. The handsome guy there at the bottom of your screen. And if you're just listening, you're going to hear the dulcet tones of the great Chris Perkins, who is now the Dolphins columnist for the South Florida Sun-Sentinel. Did you have to rip one up, around the middle of the third quarter there? Did you have to take the, paper right out of the typewriter and shred the thing and change the lead?
Defo, me and everybody else, right? I mean, the way that this game was going, I kept thinking, the Dolphins they'll probably score and make it closer, but I don't know that anybody was thinking they were going to come back and win. Absolutely incredible game.
No, it was fantastic. We've seen it happen in reverse to the Miami Dolphins in the past. We're recalling that game with Jay Fiedler, where what was it, Jumbo Elliott or something? Caught a pass there in the end zone, and the Jets came back on him on a Monday night, and nobody believed this was before the internet and even like score phone or anything like that. And nobody believed the Dolphins had lost that game. They all went to bed. It was like the Heidi game, thinking that they had won. Now I'm watching and I'm thinking, are they hopelessly out of this? It didn't seem to be going their way, but you're down 3 scores. There's still a quarter to go, and you're thinking, if you can put one on the board early, maybe you can get back into this ball game somehow. And yet, remarkably, they did it. So what happened? I mean, what was the spark? The difference between that absolutely lackluster flat play they were exhibiting early in the game to what happened in the fourth quarter, where they were explosive.
Look, Defo, it was a combination of things. And I think it starts with the Dolphins and their attitude and their spirit of never giving up, never thinking that this game was over. But you also have to go to Mike McDaniel and the way that he handled things at halftime. He wasn't cussing. He wasn't belittling the team. He just said, look, let's go out here and play some Dolphins football and let's see what we can do. And lo and behold, it worked. Let's credit Tua. Tua put the ball right where he needed to put it. And, I had the doubts about Tua and his deep pass coming into the season. He did that. Excellent. Tyreek Hill gets behind the defense. Tua puts the ball right on him. And aside from that, Tua made those short and intermediate passes that we all knew that he could make, right? That's Tua's thing, is that accuracy at the short and intermediate distance. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, Mike Gesicki, River Craycraft, the offensive line, the run game made a contribution, 86 yards, 4.8 yards per carry. The defense made a couple of plays when it had to make some plays. So, I mean, Defo, that's what happened. It was a team effort. I mean, even if you look at Thomas Morstead and the punt coverage after special teams got popped right in the mouth, 103-yard kickoff return for a touchdown.
That was ugly.
The game opening kickoff, they started putting things together. So it was a complete team effort, and that's what you saw, Defo. It wasn't just one or two things. It took a whole lot of things to go right, and they did.
Look, Perk, we've been it's funny, we're usually the cynics, but we've been the positive, uplifting people when it comes to these Dolphins. You've been, I don't know why I say cynic, you've been the realistic folk when it comes to this team. So I'll ask you, because you were there, I'm sure, watching this in front of you, or you watched it, wherever the heck you were. And again, you had already probably started writing the article because the game seemed done. There wasn't, even when they scored that touchdown to make it 28-14, they had their most spectacular play after that. Lamar Jackson runs for 70-something yards for a touchdown. And that's usually the kind of thing that breaks the team's back. 35-14, starts the fourth quarter. Well, they come back, and it was like surgical. I mean, they came back, and it was on both sides of the ball. But I want to ask you, because the cynic in me is coming out, what does it mean? Because the young coach just had his tough moment and overcame it. The young quarterback had his tough moment and overcame it. Does it mean anything? They play the Bills this week, who look like the freaking 92 Cowboys. Like, what does that game mean for this young group in the grand scheme of things?
I'm going to give you guys the worst possible answer you can give on a sports show.
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. But look, here's the thing, because as we know from watching any sport, or especially the NFL in the past, that you don't know what to make of a single game, right? Look, the offense against New England scores one touchdown. Then look at what it does on the road at Baltimore with a 21-point fourth quarter deficit. So I really don't know, but I will say this. It's good. It's good mentally, and it's good to see the offense be able to do what it did in comeback fashion. So I don't know what the real Dolphins offense is between the opener when it scores one touchdown and this game when it just explodes for 42 points. But it's a offense that seems to suit Tua very well. And the thing that I like about the McDaniel offense, and that, I was a big fan of his offense, number one, because it puts an emphasis on the run game, which, you know, I love. I'm old school. But number two is that horizontal vertical stretch of the field that they get. And they tend to get a lot of one-on-one matchups. And of course, that favors Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. So, you know, they're not asking Tua to throw it deep on a regular basis. That to me that doesn't play to Tua's strengths. This offense plays to Tua's strengths, which is that accuracy in the short to medium range, and then you get the ball into the hands of the playmakers. Look, you got Tyreek Hill for a reason, right? So, you know, I don't know what it means in the grand scheme of things, Lubie, but it's a good thing when you see an offense able to execute like that. That's a good thing. It doesn't guarantee victory against Buffalo. It doesn't guarantee they're going to average 27 points per game, but it's a good thing. We can leave it right there. I don't know ultimately, but it's good. It's good. It's good.
You mentioned you know, old school. Are you still old school enough to venture into the losers' locker room? After the game, that was always my assignment. I don't know why, but you know, and the only guy that would ever talk would be the place kicker, who maybe didn't even attempt a kick in the game. Like the team got shut out, and you would go over to him and gravitate over to him. But I can't imagine. I did see some clips of John Harbaugh's post-game press conference, but
yeah.
I mean, he had to be you know, hard pressed to explain what the hell happened out there. The old Vince Lombardi thing, especially since they took the lead. That was lost on a lot of people. The Ravens actually then took the lead late in the ball game on the field goal and still lost, which was pretty incredible.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I didn't go to the game. We have three riders, me, David Feronas, and Dave Hyde, and only two of us travel on the road to each game.
Short straw. I mean, is it favorable to stay home or go? What would you rather do?
Oh, I always prefer to go. Always.
Okay.
I always prefer to be in person, and I can see the sideline. I can see the whole field. I can see everything. So that's always my preference. But you know, you guys know newspapers are not thriving financially right now. So,
what did Hyde have on you? I guess he had seniority. You know, to get the assignment. All right. So yeah, but I mean, yeah, that had to be a tough one to explain away. I mean, that was not an easy spot to be in if you were Harbaugh.
No, and look, that was a total collapse, right? I mean, that was a total collapse. Complete. I mean, how do you let Tyreek Hill get behind the defense twice? Like, I mean, you know, this is the guy who on the field who can most beat you deep, and you let him get behind the defense twice. And again, credit to
he didn't even do anything either. I mean, he just ran right by the guy who you know, bit on an out pattern that he didn't even you know, he didn't even do a head fake. He just ran right straight down the field and caught this pass with nobody around.
Yeah. So I mean, look, and you know, we never go into the visitors' locker room anyway because you know, you just don't have time when you cover a team. But man, I mean, Baltimore, wow, just what a collapse. And again, look, let's give some credit to the Dolphins and let's give some credit to that defense. You know, I was hyping that defense, and I still will hype that defense. They had a rough day. They had a rough day. I mean, Xavier gets burned on the 75-yard touchdown pass. How many times have you seen that in his career? That a lot of very rare things, but they get that crucial 4th and 1 stop. They get that goal line stand there earlier in the game, and they were able to hold the Ravens to 3 fourth quarter points. So complete team victory, but boy, we got a huge one. If you believe in huge week 3 games in the NFL in a you know, 17 game, 18 week season, this is about as big as it can get in week 3.
Well, and you know, certain times in sports, you get in there, whether it's on an individual play or in a spot like this, where you kind of have a free shot. As you know, you won this game against the Ravens. And, you know, puts you in a favorable light. Certainly, you know, looked very exciting. I mean, the Dolphins haven't looked exciting like this in forever. I mean, you know, even Clayton and Duper weren't necessarily as exciting as these two guys potentially could be, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. I mean, both guys with 11 catches in the ball game. That's, you know, nothing to sneeze at. And, you know, they put immense pressure on defenses. But, you know, and Buffalo is in a spot where I would imagine, I don't know, you know, if you've ever looked at this from an odds standpoint, but teams that played on a Monday night going on the road in the subsequent week, I would imagine don't have a favorable upside record. So if you were going to catch the Bills down here in September, heat of the day, This is like a free shot. Nobody expected them to win the game when you looked at the schedule before the season starts. After watching the first couple of ball games by each team and performances, it looks like Buffalo is almost invincible at this point. And yet you got, one good swing at them, and maybe you come up with a surprise win, and that would really trigger. Well, it would certainly have us doing a Kazatsky, those of us that played the over on 8 and a hook, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, look, you're right, Defo. A 1 o'clock game in September. It's probably going to be hot and humid. They are coming off of the short week because they just played last night. So
yeah.
From that outside perspective, these are favorable circumstances. The Dolphins get them at home, another favorable circumstance. Dolphins coming off one of the best games in franchise history, another favorable circumstance, right? We can keep adding these up, right? Tua playing the best football of his career, another favorable circumstance. And, the offensive line showed something, right? With Teron Armstead, with that toe, he's playing on one foot, and you got Greg Little filling in for Austin Jackson at right tackle, and they only give up 1 sack. So, let's just keep adding these things up. Cater Kahu, the undrafted rookie there in the secondary, making a big contribution, started in the second half. I mean, these things keep adding up. So you're right, Defo. This is the time for the Dolphins right now. I don't know that circumstances are going to get any better, and if you're Buffalo, you just stick out your chest and you say, we're coming down here. We've beaten you 7 straight games. We're going to beat you for 8 straight. So this thing sets up just to be an epic week 3 battle. Is there such a thing, an epic week 3 battle in the NFL? But I guess that's what this is, right?
Well, that's what I wanted to ask was, like, how much can this mean? Defo said it, like, and I've always hated, you have this is the cherry on top. This is the gravy. You have the house money. Oh, no, you want to win every game. But most of us were like, they need to go 2-2 in the first 4. Well, they got their 2. Now, I'd rather them not rest on their laurels because you spend too much money to not be a playoff team. But again, if you watch the Bills, they're a freaking buzzsaw, and no one has put the Dolphins on their level. So to me, how much can this game mean for not the Bills, the Dolphins? Like, if they lose this, are we supposed to be, oh my God, how much can this game mean for the Dolphins?
I think the Dolphins have way more to gain than to lose here. And what I mean by that is, yes, you're at home and from that standpoint, you need to win and you should win. But again, look at who's coming in here. It's Buffalo, and look at the way they're playing and look at their immediate past. There's high expectations. This is one of the best, if not the best team in the NFL. So from that standpoint, the Dolphins really have nothing to lose. There's, if you're not a Dolphins fan, I expect most of the rest of America is expecting Buffalo to come down here and win a tough road game. But if the Dolphins win this one, look, it doesn't guarantee you're going to win the AFC East. It doesn't guarantee you're going to be in the playoffs. But mentally, and what it does for your mentality, you just went on the road and made an epic comeback. And now you come home and you beat what might be the best team in the NFL. You go to 3-0. You're leading the division. You've got a game in your back pocket against Buffalo in case it does come down to a tiebreaker. I mean, this game could mean a lot. This game could mean a lot. And look at Mike McDaniel. You've beaten 2 Super Bowl champion coaches in your first 2 games. The GOAT in the first one, an epic comeback in the second one. I mean, you go to 3-0 and beat the best team in the league. Mike McDaniel's stock and his mentality just goes through the roof. Again, it doesn't guarantee anything, but the Dolphins have way more to gain than they have to lose in this game.
This McDaniel still is an odd cat, is he not? I mean, by NFL standards.
I love McDaniel.
Yeah, I mean, he seems, unreal. I mean, too good to be true because, he stayed very, one of our sponsors on the Mike Mayo lunchbox is Even Keel Fish Shack. And great spot, by the way. I hope you'll come out there next time we're there, Chris, and have a little lunch with us if you haven't been there already. But very even keel. I mean, it wasn't like he was, schlubbering in hyperbole, about how wonderful this was. As you mentioned, at halftime, I guess the book was that he didn't crack. It wasn't like he walked in there and said, "My job is on the line here, and you guys are going to play like that." You don't come to Las Vegas and talk to a man like Mo Green like that, Michael. But yeah, and instead seemed to be the epitome of cool. Maybe even gave it a little of the old Angelo Dundee. With Sugar Ray Leonard, you're blowing it, kid. Let's get out there and do something. But seemed very even tempered. Coming out of that game with the stuff that he's had to say so far this week.
Yeah, he's different. That's what I like about Mike McDaniel is that he's different. And so you hear him in the press conferences and he's cracking jokes and very deadpan, very dry sense of humor. But what coaches are cracking jokes 2 weeks into the season, all through training camp? You're a first-year coach. You got this pressure on you. You just got Tyreek Hill and Teron Armstead. You've got to make this offense work. The organization had a rough off-field, off-season, right, with the Stephen Ross stuff and losing the first-round pick, and the season ticket allotment has sold out. People have huge expectations, and here's Mike McDaniel cracking jokes, one-liners, deadpanning, and so you got to love that. Plus, the guy brings an offense that fits the personnel on the team, and I can't stress that enough. That one of the big things that I had against these Dolphins teams in the past, and against the NFL in general, is that quite often they will try to force that passing game. And Ryan Tannehill was not a passing game quarterback. You needed to get some run support like he has in Derrick Henry in Tennessee. And so you had Adam Gase, who, I worked with Peyton Manning, and you had Joe Flacco. Well, I worked with Aaron Rodgers. Newsflash, those guys would have been Hall of Famers without Gase and without Joe Philbin. So you had these coaches who were trying to put a system in that didn't fit the personnel. Now you've got a coach whose system does fit the personnel. And I think that's a huge, huge difference. And you've got to credit Mike McDaniel for recognizing that. This was his system, but he's not forcing the deep throw. If it's there, we're going to take it. Otherwise, we're going to play to Tua's strengths. We're going to play to the strengths of these guys who I get them the ball one-on-one in space, Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill. They're going to wreck your defense. And so that's what I like about McDaniel. It's not only his personality, which seems to fit this team so well, it's also his system. He's not asking stuff from the players that they aren't capable of delivering. And you've got to credit a coach who recognizes that.
I love that this all happened by accident. I mean, by bizarre circumstance, complicated by, as you mentioned, the, off-season controversies that afflicted the Miami Dolphins and the punishment that ensued of losing a first-round pick, because McDaniel, they probably were more inclined to want Josh McDaniels, who's now 0-2 and looking like a buffoon with the Raiders, and again, very much looking like another failure that fell off the Belichick coaching tree. But and this guy is cool as a cucumber. And I don't know, was he fourth, fifth on their list? They might have even given Coco Cameron a call to come back before they, looked at Mike McDaniel. But it looked like it worked out great. Anyway, there's a buzz around town, so that's good. There's interest in the columns you're writing and the things we're talking about, and it's nice to see, and it's good to see a team. We always said if they were going to be bad or be mediocre, at least be exciting. And they certainly were exciting, in these first couple of ball games, especially this fourth quarter, which you're hoping is a springboard for something good. And maybe, we're Cinderella Man in this game, are we not? James J. Brannick coming up against the Buffalo Bills. And notice it's now where we used to just purely be, the Dolphins. Them guys.
I love the we.
Now we're all in, man. I'm going to Publix. It's as good as if Dolph Van Denny had been resurrected from the grave. Coming out, spearheading us with that towel that said "Go" on it, which always I found to be an inspiration. I don't know about you.
Iconic.
Yeah, it was great. All right, Chris, always a pleasure, my friend. We'll catch your stuff in the Sun-Sentinel and sunsentinel.com, and now the Dolphins columnist. Outstanding job. Thanks so much for joining us. And again, looking good early in the morning. I want to dive right into that pool there and, spend some time just relaxing this afternoon. It'd be great if it doesn't rain all day.
Hey, come! You're welcome to the Perkins Estate anytime. It's virtual. But we'll have a good time anyway, right? We got good imagination here.
Green screen to pool. That's always a good one. Yeah.
That's it. Casa de Perk, baby.
All right. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Chris Perkins, ladies and gentlemen. All right, that was fun. He was very enthusiastic. He was not as enthusiastic before last week's game, and I would imagine he was even less inclined to believe in what's going on here in South Florida with our professional football team. Then after that fourth quarter, it certainly changed a lot of people's minds about what was going on. So that was good. Let's hope that is the future of what happens here. It would be nice, wouldn't it? I mean, after all these years of just absolutely, destroying the Miami Dolphins and the organization because of their ineptitude, from the Mike Tannenbaums and all of the mistakes that were made, the Jeff Irelands and the Smoke and Joe Philbins. Oh, my God, it's been an awful era, my friends. Awful. Maybe we've hit on something here by mistake.
Well, that's the thing is, because Scoop said something, just think they didn't even want him or something. I'm like, well, obviously. Like, it wouldn't have happened otherwise. I'm like, we've been saying this for like months now. Like, obviously, it's the guy that was their fourth pick that worked. If they actually wanted him, he would have sucked.
Of course. They never hit on their guys. Probably more inclined to get Urban Meyer and say, you know what? Nobody could win in Jacksonville. All right. That would have been a common position taken by the Miami Dolphins organization. All right, a lot of fun being with you, and we will join you again tomorrow and also later on this afternoon, 12 o'clock. Actually, very early in the afternoon. As soon as it becomes afternoon, we're back here on South Florida Live, very much alive with Mike Mayo and Mike Mayo's Lunchbox. So we'll catch you then. For Mike Lubie Lubitz, our thanks. I thought Seth Wickersham did a great job for us, as did Chris Perkins today. So that made a lot of fun. I mean, we were a little bit more conventional with our stuff here today, were we not, Louie?
Like a real sports talk show. Hopefully you'll enjoy it, Sarney.
Might be able to find a way on a network if we continue in this direction here. We've made adjustments at halftime.
Sure.
All right. We'll see you tomorrow also here with the Defo Show at 7 o'clock. Tony Segreto will join us, and he's brought to you by Texas Roadhouse Restaurants. On that Let's Eat South Florida always gets rave reviews, man.
Yes.
Has to be the best steakhouse chain restaurant.
It's the only chain. They always slam chains, but they love Roadhouse. I love it.
Roadhouse is great, man. Gets favorable reviews and for good reason. Don't we owe Tony a lunch there? We do.
Oh, we need to go. I think he's in town this week, so I'm going to try and set something up this week.
Okay. Yeah, we should all get out there and, meet with Ed Garcia. And then Catholic Health Services, also another fine organization. They will be solidly behind Tony when he comes and joins us for Old School tomorrow here on the Defo Show. We will see you tomorrow, and then later on this afternoon, as we said. For Mike Lubie Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest, and thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for listening. Appreciate all the good comments. And we'll see you next time as we leave you know that.
The time.
It's 9:01.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.